Hello and welcome. It is I, Iron Raiden, back yet again with another new topic of discussion. Now, I'm pretty sure this will stir up a bit of a debate, which it already has online. So it is what it is. You just gotta give your piece and then just, go on about your life. But anyway, yes, as you can see from the title of this video, which I believe I'll title it that, is this remake of The Last of Us worth it? Now, I just want to break this down a little bit and give my perspective, which I don't see a lot of people particularly saying. Some people are just going to say full on, oh, this is bull crap, blah, 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 cash grab. And some people be like, oh, yes, it's absolutely justified. What are you people talking about? This and that. It's just going to be, but I'm trying to give my perspective and my certain reasons I don't see a lot of people particularly bringing up. And that one particular point is that timing is everything. And despite how great a single game is and how much, even I may adore a certain game and I would love to play that game, till the end of time, you have to you have to space these certain things out. We're seeing this happen probably a little bit more often as of late. If you look at Grand Theft Auto 5, we've been playing that game for three consecutive console generations. We had it on the PS3, we had it on the PS4, they had it on the PS5, and of course it's on PC. Things like that, and it gets to a point where it's like, obviously, yeah, it sells like hotcakes. So Rockstar, because any one company, when they get too much power, when they get too many people buying that one particular product, they can afford to not give a shit. They can afford to milk that for all it's worth. And of course, I get that, but at the end of the day, a lot of us realize it's like, damn, man, what are we doing? Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? But yeah, anyway. And so with The Last of Us originally, of course, released in 2013, 9 years ago. So keep that in mind, of course. 9 years ago, of course, it was an absolutely solid game. It was at the time, of course, and even still to a certain extent, I would say, even for PS3 standards, like, yeah, solid graphics, great characters, great storyline. It was all well and good. It was very much like a video game, Walking Dead type of deal, if you will. And of course, we had the sequel, The Last of Us Part 2, which, for better or worse, uh, yeah, that was released. And, say what you will, that definitely divided the fans. And for me personally, I fall more into the side of like, I don't really know what you were thinking. There's subverting the expectations, and then there's just doing stuff like that. And you're like, okay, well, I guess you do you. And I'll either go near it or I won't. But we get to this point now where we're at the remake of The Last of Us Part 1, released in 2013, so 9 years ago. We had a remaster for the PS4 that was released about a year after the fact. Now, of course, remaster and remakes, of course, are two completely different things. We know that. Like, we can have remasters of the older Uncharted games, or we can have remakes like the Resident Evil 2, which was justified very much so at that time. It had been at least a couple of decades since the original game was released. They completely just revamped the gameplay and the style of it and made a very beautiful experience. That went over very well with people. But you get to this and you realize that, yeah, it's only been 9 years. There was a remaster for the PS4. We've had the sequel fairly recently. Do we really need to find ourselves justifying a remake of the original game at this point in time? And that's the main question I ask here, is that it's not necessarily the remake, like the idea of the remake itself, but the timing of it. If we recently played the first, like the last iteration of the game was what, 2014, so 8 years ago, and then we get a remake now and it hasn't even been 10 years. When, if you ask me, if you're going to do a remake of a game, I feel like a justifiable time span that has passed since the original iteration is like 15, 20 years at minimum. We're not even at the 10-year mark, and yet we're already doing this. And I know they got the show coming out, and it's Naughty Dog. Of course, I'm sure they're going to want to cross promote and milk it for all it's worth because people love and adore that game. And yeah, again, say what you will about the second one. Yeah, of course, that's divided. The original game still holds up fine for what it is. But even then, you got to ask yourself, do we feel like that this is justified? Even if it's, and we can argue like, is it really built from the ground up? Blah blah blah, whatever. Do they really, revamp controls? Did they add a little bit of touches here and there and up the graphics? Sure. Did they put their best foot forward? That's all well and good. But it's only been 9 years. It hasn't even been 10. And for a full $70 price tag, do you take these things into consideration? Timing is everything. Do we really need this now? I personally, if you've given it at least another 5, 6 years, I've been like, okay, fine. It's been a fair enough amount of time. If it's a beloved game, it's maybe another console generation into, or maybe the end of whatever. Then I was like, okay, fine. You do you. That works. I get it. Okay, that's fine. But right now, as much as we love that game, as much as many people want to try to justify, as much as many people maybe just want to flat out shit on it, I do beg the honest question: is it justified right now? Because as I said, Resident Evil that had been around for quite some time. I mean, hell, even other games like Tomb Raider. Like so some people may like the new Tomb Raider, this and that, but at least it'd been quite some time since we really saw a true revamped version of that and things like that. I mean, hell, even Ratchet and Clank, they've been doing sequel after sequel. They did the one game that was basically like a remake, but again, it had been quite some time since that original game. I mean, hell, from Sucker Punch, I'm an Infamous fan, absolutely. Second Son was a pretty decent game, and it's even been a few years since that. We haven't even seen remasters of those first two games. Like, as far as the time span that it's been since those original games, and considering how much I love those games, I would like to actually see honest to god new versions of those games, then that to me would be like a more justified idea for a remake at this point in time. Not a game that's only 9 years old when we did have a remaster for the previous generation. We just had a sequel. I mean, wouldn't you rather have seen them put the time, money, effort, and resources into an actual new IP instead of doing this right now? Again, as for as great as the game is, that's fine. And even if they, again, put their best foot forward for this remake, timing is everything. Do we need this right now when it has even been 10 years? I personally say no. So that's why I think it is somewhat of a cash grab, because it's making me wonder. It's like it really is like The Walking Dead at this point. The show's been on for a long time now. It's been on decline. A lot of people really don't care about much anymore. Yet they have like 20 different spin-offs, and they're really just trying to keep that going for as long as possible. And Naughty Dog is really starting to make me question that much more. Are they relying too heavily on this IP? Do we really need to bother with this game right now, only being 9 years? We've had the remaster, it's full $70 price tag. We just had the sequel, for better or worse. I mean, do we really need this right now? I mean, if they remake Spider-Man for PS4 in another 6 years, do I really need to see that? Honestly, no. I mean, because we had the game still looks great, and we could argue some of the maybe decisions from the remaster of that game. But we had Miles Morales, we had the spin-off, the sequels on the horizon. I don't need, as much as I love that game, I don't need a remake of that within the next few years. Absolutely not. I'd rather you put that time into the next sequel or something else at that point in time. And so again, it's the same thing here. Doesn't matter how good the game is. Doesn't matter how decent the remake may actually be. Timing is everything, and for me, honestly, right now, all things taken into consideration, I personally don't see it justified. But you may yourself feel differently if you happen to see this video, and if you feel like there's an honest to God reason, then by all means, just let's talk about it if you want to. That's all well and good. Leave a comment, whatever you want to do. But I'm just giving my thoughts out there because again, I just feel like the time frame of this, and I can say a lot of things about Naughty Dog. I mean, for sure. But in this particular instance, again, just trying to look at things from all aspects, I personally just don't see the reason in this right now, but that is just me. So I'll just go ahead and cut off the video right there. I am Iron Raven, and I am out.